Is your heart burning within you? Have you ever had it happen to you that even though something has been right in front of you, the understanding of what this thing meant had not yet occurred to you? And then somehow you have a revelation, something clicks in your mind, and suddenly you understand, the lights come on. That's exactly what happens in our gospel today. These two disciples had been in Jerusalem and had heard the news that Jesus had been raised from the dead. But like some of the others, they didn't believe it. They thought it was just a hoax. The man that they had put all their hopes and dreams in had been horribly and tragically tortured and murdered by the Roman and Jewish authorities. And now, what were they to do? Where were they to go? What were they to believe? Their world had come crashing around them. They could not remember any of the teachings that Jesus had given them. They were completely grief-stricken and seemingly without hope. They were trying to understand, St. Luke says, and they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. Suddenly, the answer to their prayers, hopes, and dreams literally came walking up to them. But they couldn't see or recognize him. Jesus, the stranger, explains all the Old Testament scripture that referred to him, as had been previously explained again by Jesus to them before his death. Even then, the disciples did not recognize Jesus. And St. Luke says, and it happened, that while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that, their eyes were opened. With that, their eyes were opened. Finally, they recognized him in the Eucharist. At the Last Supper, Jesus instituted the Eucharist by which he would be recognizably present to his disciples. And now in the village of Emmaus, Jesus is known in the breaking of the bread. The light bulb went on for the disciples and their minds were finally opened. St. Luke says their eyes were opened. This exact expression of these three consecutive words in Greek occurs only in the account of the fall in Genesis, the fall of humanity in Genesis. We read in Genesis chapter 3, the eyes of the two were opened and they knew. In Genesis, we are introduced to the fall, the confusion of the transgression and disobedience of our original parents. In St. Luke, we are introduced to Jesus, the new Adam who gives the food that brings not death, but life. This meal at Emmaus is the first meal of the new creation. St. Luke says, then they said to each other, were not our hearts burning? So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, the Lord has truly been raised. Then the two recounted what had taken place in the breaking of the bread. As we continue celebrating the season of resurrection, may our hearts burn within us, and may we also run with great excitement to tell others of the encounter we have had with Jesus in the breaking of the bread at Holy Mass. God's blessings.